60% of us have stood on a high balcony and felt a sudden, terrifying urge to just step off. You aren't depressed and you definitely don't want to die. So why is your brain telling you to jump? The answer is actually a lifesaver. If you have ever felt that magnetic pull toward the edge of a cliff or a speeding subway train, you are not alone. Research shows that over 60% of people have experienced this exact, horrifying sensation. For decades, we have treated this urge like a dark, unspoken secret. We assume it is a hidden death wish or some glitch in our sanity bubbling to the surface. But the truth is actually incredibly comforting. That sudden spike of adrenaline and the vivid image of yourself plummeting into the abyss, it isn't your brain trying to kill you. In fact, it is quite literally the exact opposite. To understand why your mind plays this terrifying trick, we need to look at the tragic history of one specific bridge, a famous philosopher's existential crisis, and a scientific breakthrough that completely redefined how we understand human survival. It turns out your brain is just being a little too overprotective. To grasp how powerful this feeling is, we have to visit Deception Pass Bridge in Washington state. It is a towering structure suspended 180 feet above treacherous, swirling waters. Since 1935, it has been the site of over 400 tragic deaths, making it a place where the line between life and death feels razor thin. On a clear day in the mid-90s, a novelist named Judith Dankoff was visiting this bridge. She had a thriving career and absolutely zero history of suicidal thoughts. Yet, as she approached the railing, she was gripped by an overwhelming compulsion to climb over and dive. She described it not as a fear of falling, but as a bizarre urge to fly. The feeling was so physical and irresistible that she panicked. To save her own life, she literally collapsed onto the pavement, sitting cross-legged on the concrete to force her body weight down so she couldn't jump. She was terrified of her own mind. What invisible force was pulling a happy woman off a bridge? People have been trying to name this sensation for centuries, long before modern psychology even had the words for it. Long before we had clinical studies, the master of the macabre, Edgar Allan Poe, was already obsessing over this psychological glitch. In July of 1845, he published a story called The Imp of the Perverse, where he described an irresistible force that compels us to do the exact thing that will destroy us, simply because we know we shouldn't. Almost a century later, in 1943, the French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre gave this feeling a name that has echoed through history: the call of the void. Sartre argued that this vertigo wasn't just a fear of falling. He believed it was something much more profound. To him, it was the agonizing realization of our own absolute freedom. When you stand on a precipice, the terror isn't just that you might slip. The true terror is the sudden, dizzying knowledge that you could choose in this exact second to end everything in a single step. You are in total control of your life, and that kind of power is utterly terrifying. But philosophy only explains the mood, not the mechanics of why your heart starts racing. Sartre's explanation was poetic, but it didn't capture the biological reality of what happens inside our bodies. The call of the void remained a romantic mystery until very recently. For decades, the scientific community ignored it, tossing it into the same bucket as mild anxiety. That changed in 2012 when Jennifer Hames, a researcher at Florida State University, put the phenomenon under a microscope. Hames noticed that many of her healthy, non-suicidal patients were deeply disturbed by these sudden urges to jump. They felt broken. So she led a landmark study involving 431 students to find out exactly who was feeling this and why. Hames officially named the experience the high place phenomenon, dragging it out of the shadowy realm of French philosophy and into the light of modern neuroscience. What her team discovered completely shattered the idea that this urge was a death wish. In fact, they found that the people who felt the urge to jump the most were often the ones with the strongest will to live. It was a total narrative flip that proved the philosophers only had half the story. Here is what is really happening when you look down from a high place and feel that terrifying pull. It is all a massive, clumsy misunderstanding between your subconscious survival instincts and your rational brain. When you stand near an edge, your subconscious registers a deadly threat long before your conscious mind even notices the view. Your survival instincts immediately fire a warning signal, forcing your body to flinch back to keep you safe. But human brains are high-speed processing machines. A fraction of a second later, your conscious mind catches up and notices your heart is racing and your palms are sweating. It demands an explanation for this sudden panic. It thinks, I am totally safe behind this railing, so why did I just jump back in terror? The only logical conclusion the brain can reach is that you must have wanted to jump. If you find these weird quirks of human biology as fascinating as I do, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can join us for more deep dives. This misinterpretation is the key to the whole mystery, but it actually gets even weirder. It is honestly incredible to realize how profound this really is. That sudden, horrifying image of yourself plummeting toward the ground isn't a secret desire to die. It is actually your conscious brain frantically trying to make sense of your body's desperate, automatic effort to keep you alive. You step back to live, but your brain misreads that lightning fast physical reaction and rationalizes it as a desire to leap. The high place phenomenon is literally your own biology, affirming your will to live wrapped up in a terrifying mental illusion. It shows us just how fragmented our own minds can be. We like to believe that we are singular, unified beings, perfectly in control of our thoughts and actions. But moments like the call of the void reveal that our brains are actually a messy, chaotic committee of different systems running at different speeds. The fast, primal system reacts in milliseconds to keep you breathing, while the slower, rational system scrambles to write a story that explains what just happened. And sometimes the story it writes is a complete horror movie. It is a beautiful, deeply human flaw in our mental wiring that connects over half the population in a shared moment of invisible panic. It turns out that being afraid you want to jump is actually just your brain's clumsy way of saying it loves being alive. And the weirdness of our survival instincts doesn't stop at high places. This same biological misfire happens in completely different scenarios all the time. Have you ever held a sleeping baby and had a sudden, terrifying thought about dropping them? That is the exact same mechanism at work. Your brain is fiercely protecting the child by imagining the worst case scenario so you'll hold on tighter. Or what about the sudden urge to swerve your car into oncoming traffic while driving on the highway? That is just your spatial awareness system aggressively mapping out danger zones to ensure you stay in your lane. Even the urge to scream something wildly inappropriate in a silent room is your brain pressure testing social boundaries to keep you safely within the pack. These aren't signs that you are a bad person or that you are losing your mind. They are all just aggressively proactive survival checks. Your brain is essentially running a safety drill for a disaster it never wants to happen. So the next time you find yourself standing on a high balcony, staring down at the pavement, and that dark whispering voice tells you to just step off the edge, you don't need to panic. You don't need to drop to the ground like Judith Dankoff did at Deception Pass, and you certainly don't need to question your own sanity. You can just take a deep breath, step back, and thank your weird, clumsy nervous system for working exactly the way it is supposed to. Your brain loves you so much and wants you to live so badly that it is willing to terrify you just to keep you safe. It is a strange way to show affection, but it has kept our species going for thousands of years. If this completely changed how you see your own mind, make sure to hit subscribe and join us for more videos that decode the strange psychology of being human. We have so many more mental glitches to explore together. We all have these bizarre, intrusive glitches in our mental software, and the more we talk about them, the less scary they become. I want to hear your stories now. Where were you the first time you felt the call of the void, and what did it actually feel like for you? Was it on a bridge, a rooftop, or maybe just a steep set of stairs? Drop your experience in the comments below, because I read every single one. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss our next deep dive, and keep questioning everything. I will see you in the next video.